हेलो दोस्तों, वेलकम टू द साइनिंग ब्रेन। आज हम क्लास 7 का चैप्टर नंबर 12 साइंस पढ़ने जा रहे हैं। इस चैप्टर का नाम है रिप्रोडक्शन इन प्लांट्स। तो स्टार्ट करते हैं। टू प्रोड्यूस इट्स काइंड इज़ अ कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स ऑफ ऑल लिविंग ऑर्गेनिजम्स। यू हैव ऑलरेडी लर्नड इन दिस क्लास 6 the production of new individuals from their parents is known as reproduction. But how do plants reproduce? There are different modes of reproduction in plants which we shall learn in this chapter. 12.1 Mode of reproduction. In class 6, you learned about different parts of a flowering plant. Try to list the various parts of a plant and write the function of each. Most plants have roots, stems, and leaves. These are called the vegetative part of the plant. After a certain period of growth, most plants bear flowers. You may have seen the mango tree flowering in spring. It is these flowers that give rise to juicy mango fruits we enjoy in summer. We eat the fruits and usually discard the seeds. Seeds germinate and form new plants. So, what is the function of the flowers in plant? Flowers perform the function of reproduction in plant. Flowers are also the reproductive parts. There are several ways by which plants reproduce their offspring. These are categorized into two types. 1. Asexual and 2. Sexual reproduction. In asexual reproduction, plant can give rise to new plants without seed, whereas in sexual reproduction, new plants are obtained from seeds. Paheli thought that new plants always grow from seed, but she has never seen the seed of sugarcane, potato, and rose. She wants to know how these plants reproduce. Asexual reproduction. In asexual reproduction, new plants are obtained without production of seeds. Vegetative propagation. It is a type of asexual reproduction in which new plants are produced from roots, stems, leaves, and buds. Since reproduction is through the vegetative part of the plant, it is known as vegetative propagation. Activity 12.1. Cut a branch of rose or champa with a node. This piece of branch is termed a cutting. Bury the cutting in the soil. A node is a part of the stem or branch at which a leaf arises. Figure 12.1. Water the cutting every day and observe its growth. Observe and record the number of days taken for roots to come out and new leaves to raise. Try the same activity by growing money plant in a jar of water and record your observation. Figure 12.1 Stem cutting of rose. You must have seen flower buds developing into flowers. Apart from flower buds, there are buds in the axil point of attachment of the leaves at the node of leaves which develop into shoots. These shoots are called vegetative buds. A bud consists of a short stem around which immature overlapping leaves are present. Vegetative buds can also give rise to new plant. Activity 12.2. Take a fresh potato, observe the scar on it with the help of magnifying glass. You may find buds in them. These scars are also called eyes. Cut the potatoes into a small portion, each with an eyes, and bury them in the soil. Water the pieces regularly for a few days and observe their progress. What do you find? Figure 12.2 Potato plants sprouting from an eye. Likewise, you can also grow ginger, figure 12.3, or turmeric. Bryophyllum means sprout leaves plant have buds in the margin of the leaves, figure 12.4. If all leaves of these plants fall on a moist soil, each bud can give rise to a new plant. Figure 12.3 ginger with new plants sprouting from it. Roots of some plants can also give rise to new plants. Sweet potato and dahlia are examples. Plants such as cacti produce new plants when their parts of get detached from the main plant's body. Each detached part can grow into a new plant. Bozo wants to know if there is any advantage of vegetative propagation. Plants produced by vegetative propagation takes less time to grow and bear flowers and fruit earlier than those produced from seeds. The new plants are exact copies of the parent plant as they are produced from a single parent. Later in this chapter, you will learn that plants produced by sexual reproduction have characters of both the parents. Plants produce seeds as a result of sexual reproduction. Budding. You have already learned about the teeny organisms like yeast can be seen only under a microscope. These grow and multiply every few hours if sufficient nutrients are made available to them. Remember that yeast is single-celled organism. Let us see how they produce. Activity 12.3 to be demonstrated by the teacher. Take a piece of yeast cake or yeast powder from a bakery or a chemist shop. Take a pinch of yeast and place it in a container with some water. Add a spoonful of sugar and shake to dissolve it. Keep it in warm part of a room. After an hour, put a drop of this liquid on a glass slide and observe under a microscope. What do you observe? You may see the formation of new yeast cell, figure 12.5. Here, figure 12.5 reproduction in yeast by budding. First stage is yeast cell, second developing bud, third new buds, and fourth chain of buds. The small bulb-like projection coming out from the yeast can cell is called a bud. The bud gradually grows and gets detached from the parent cell and form a new yeast cell. The new yeast cell grows, mature and produce more yeast cell. Sometimes another bud arises from the buds, forming a chain of buds. If this process continues, a large number of yeast cells are produced in a short time. Fragmentation. You might have seen slimy green patches in ponds or in other stagnant water bodies. These are algae. When water and nutrients are available, algae grow and multiply rapidly by fragmentation. An algae breaks up into two or more fragments. These fragments or pieces grow into new individuals. Figure 12.6. This process continues and they cover a large area in a short period of time. Figure 12.6 fragmentation in Spirogyra and algae. Spores formation. In chapter 1, you learned that the fungi on a bread piece grow from spores which are present in the air. Repeat activity 1.2. Observe the spores in the cotton-like mesh on the bread. When spores are released, they keep floating in the air. As they are very light, they can cover long distance. Spores are asexual reproduction bodies. Each spore is covered by a hard protective coat is withstand unfavorable conditions such as high temperature and low humidity, so they can survive for a long time. Under favorable conditions, spores germinate and develop into a new individuals. Plants such as mosses and ferns also reproduce by means of spores. Here figure 12.7 reproduction through spores formation in fungus. And figure 12.8 reproduction through spores formation in ferns. 12.2 Sexual reproduction. You have learned earlier the structure of a flower. You know that the flowers are the reproductive part of a plant. Stamen are the male reproductive part, and pistil is the female reproductive part. Figure 12.9. Activity 12.4. Take a mustard, China rose, tunia flower and separate its reproductive parts. Study the various parts of a stamen and pistil. Flowers which contain either only pistil or only a stamen are called unisexual flower. Flowers which contain both stamen and pistil are called bisexual flower. Corn, papaya and cucumber produce unisexual flower, whereas mustard, rose and tunia have bisexual flowers. Both male and female unisexual flowers may be present in the same plant or in different plant. Could you identify the anther and the filament of a stamen? Figure 12.9a. This is the figure 12.9a. Here you can see the anther and the filament. Another contain pollen grains which produce male gamete. A pistil consists of stigma, style and ovary. Ovary contains one more ovules. The female gametes or the egg is formed in the ovules. In sexual reproduction, a male and a female gametes fuse to form a zygote. Here the photo of pistil. 12.9b. You can see stigma, style, ovary and ovary contain ovules. Bojo wants to know how the male gametes in the pollen grains reaches the female gametes present in the ovules. Pollination. Generally, pollen grains have a tough protective coat which prevent them from drying up. Since pollen grains are light, they can be carried by wind or water. Insects visit flowers and carry away pollen on their bodies. Some of the pollen lands on the stigma of a flower of the same kind. The flower of pollen from the anther to the stigma of a flower is called pollination. The flower of pollen from the anther to stigma. The transfer of pollen from anther to stigma of a flower is called pollination. Here figure 12.10 shows the pollination of flower. Pollination in flower. ये दो टाइप के होते हैं, एक सेल्फ पॉलिनेशन, एक क्रॉस पॉलिनेशन. इसमें स्टिग्मा, पॉलन और एंथर शो किया गया है. Bojo wants to know why flowers are generally so colorful and fragrant. Is it attract insects? If the pollen lands on the stigma of the same flower or another flower of the same plant, it is called self-pollination. When the pollen of a flower lands on the stigma of a flower of different plants of the same kind, it is called cross-pollination. Figure 12.10a and b as already shown. Here figure 12.11 fertilization, zygote formation. In figure A you can see pollen grains and ovum, and figure B zygote formation. Fertilization. The cell which results after fusion of the gametes is called zygote. The process of fusion of male and female gametes is called fertilization. Figure 12.11. The zygotes develop into an embryo. 12.3. Fruits and seed formation. Here 12.12 one figure is there where you can see the section of an apple and B almond. 12.3 Fruits and seed formation. After fertilization, the ovary grows into a fruit and other parts of the flower fall off. The fruit is the ripened ovary. The seed develop from the ovules. The seed contain an embryo enclosed in a protective seed coat. Some fruits are fleshy and juicy such as mango and orange. Some fruits are hard like almond and walnut. Figure 12.12a and b. Seed dispersal. In nature, same kind of plants grows at different places. This happens because seeds are dispersed to different places. Sometimes after a walk through a forest or a field or a park, you may find seeds or fruits sticking to your clothes. Did you try to observe how these seeds were clinging to your clothes? What do you think will happen if all seeds of plant were to fall at the same place and grow there? There would be several competition for sunlight, water, minerals and space. As a result, the seeds would not grow into healthier plant. Plant benefits by seed dispersal. It prevents competition between the plants and its own seedling for sunlight, water and minerals. It also enables the plants to invade new habitat for wider distribution. Seeds and fruits of plants are carried away by winds, water and minerals. Winged seeds such as those of drumstick and maples, figure 12.13a and b. Figure 12.13. Figure A, seeds and seeds of drumstick, and figure B, maple. You can see seed and wings. Winged seeds such as those of drumstick and maples, figure 12.13a and b. Light seeds of grasses or hairy seeds of ack, mother, and hairy fruits of sunflower, figure 12.14a and b, get blown off with the wind to far away places. Some seeds are dispersed by water. These fruits or seeds usually develop floating ability in the form of a spongy or fibrous outer coat as in coconut. Some seeds are dispersed by animal, especially spiny seeds with hook which get attached to the body of animals and are carried to distant places. Example of xanthium, figure 12.15, and urena. Some seeds are dispersed when the fruit bursts with sudden jerk. The seeds are scattered far from the parent plant. This happens in the case of castor and balsam. Figure 12.14a, the hairy fruit of sunflower, and b, hairy seed of mother ack. 12.15 Xanthium. Now keywords: asexual reproduction, hypha, sexual reproduction, budding, ovule, spores, embryo, pollen grains, sporangium, fertilization, pollen tubes, vegetation propagation, fragmentation, pollination, zygote, gametes, seed dispersal. So friends, this is the end of this chapter. अगले क्लास में हम नेक्स्ट चैप्टर को पढ़ेंगे. तब तक के लिए थैंक यू, धन्यवाद.